All right, it looks like I may be live on here, so I am just waiting for it to show up for me, waiting for everybody to get online. I think there's a minute of delay. So if you can see me and hear me right now, will you go ahead and leave me a comment in the comment section below just to make sure that that everything is working right? Because it is giving me an error message. Oh no. Oh, here we go. Okay, let me check and see if I am live. Delay. So if you, yep, it looks like I'm live. Okay, so hello, and I am so excited if you are here watching me. Let me fix my camera a little bit. I am literally just hanging out at my house. If you are watching this when we are live, we are in the middle of quarantine. Yay! So I'm home. All of my kids are home. My husband and I work from home anyways. So it's kind of business as usual for us. Equipping Godly Women is fine. We're all online anyways. Everybody here is happy, healthy, and safe. So I am just here, and now we have the pleasure of my kids are home with me all day, every day, which is lots of fun and noisy. But today, I just wanted to kind of hop on and see how everybody is doing, see what everybody is up to, how life is going for everybody, because I know it's kind of a mess right now. So I am trying to check in the comments to see if anybody is here. I don't see anybody yet, but that is fine. So if you are on, go ahead, leave me a comment. Tell me how you are doing, how life is these days, all the things, because I want this to kind of be a chat. And otherwise, I have some things that I want to share with you. So, as we are in the season of quarantine and coronavirus and all the things, I know that it can be kind of scary and you don't really know what is going on, what to expect, what's going to happen. It's really a time of a lot of uncertainty. So I have been pretty quiet through this just because, as I said, Equipping Godly Women is pretty stable. We're not really affected by this. I feel like I didn't have a lot to say. But as I was getting on the news last night, and watching the news and kind of seeing a lot of what's going on. I don't want anyone in the community to feel like you're totally freaking out, you don't know what to do, you're so worried. So I kind of want to just feel like, hey, we're all quarantined, we're all kind of going a little stir crazy. Let's hop on, let's chat, let's just share a little bit of tips of how things are going. Let's give a check-in and then just some kind of tips to help you make it through this period with your sanity intact. I sent out an email last week just with really basic information of keeping you and your family safe. Make sure you're staying home. Make sure you're washing your hands. These things are so important. But today I want to talk more about the mindset kind of things. So how can you not just survive during this season of global pandemic and coronavirus and all the things, but how can you actually thrive during this season? So I have four things, we'll see, that I want to share with you today for anybody who is interested. So I'm just kind of checking in, seeing if anybody is leaving me any comments. I do see we have people watching. None of you are commenting, but I will keep checking if anybody wants to say hello and we can chat. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do, and yeah, I'm totally just cozy here in my office. First thing I want you to do is one, during this time when it's so easy to worry and all of these things are going on and your routine is crazy and it just feels really uncertain, is to make sure that you are doing okay. So that's kind of why I want to check in with you. But for you, for yourself, for your family, it's so easy to worry and all the things and what's going to happen. But okay, let's start with the basics. Are you okay? What do you need? Where are you at? So right now is a really great time. I know is scary financially for a lot of people with your job. So the first thing that I would do in this season is to kind of check in just like with your health and safety, like the basic things. Are you okay? Is your family safe? If your family is safe and happy and healthy, like that is a really great start. How are you doing financially? I know that a lot of times it can feel like you don't even want to look at the numbers, but if you are somebody who doesn't look at the numbers often and it really worries you and it really scares you, make yourself sit down and look at the numbers. Where are you at? How are you doing? Are you okay? Do you have very much saved up? What are your bills? It's going to be much better to put on your big girl pants and do these grown-up things right now rather than, hoping for the best and hoping it'll be over soon And, just hope is not a strategy. So right now, I mean, not right now, like later today, tomorrow, sometime this week, take some time and figure out how are you doing? How, like, just get honest, talk to your spouse if you have one. How are you doing financially? How much do you have saved, if anything? What are your bills? Are there bills that you can cut? Now, I don't usually talk about finances. It's not something I want to start talking about all the time. It's not really my passion. But like in this time of uncertainty, with so much going on, really that's one of the first things that I would encourage you to do if you have not done already, just to kind of see where you're at and make a game plan for yourself. Are you happy, healthy, and safe? Are you doing okay financially? How are your routines? Are you, if your routine is the same thing you've always done, if you are in a job that hasn't been super affected, maybe you're a grocery store worker and you still go to the grocery store and you come home and you haven't had a lot change there, then okay. But for some of us, our routines have been crazy shifted and a lot is going on. So rather than just sitting at home and be like, oh no, like things feel like chaos, things feel like panic, like all these things are going on. Okay, let's sit down. Let's start with an evaluation. Where are you at? What does your schedule look like now? And yes, even when you're home in quarantine, you should have some idea of what's going to happen during the day, especially if you're someone who feels overwhelmed, like it's all chaos. So don't just wake up and let the kids, which is totally what I have been doing a lot of lately, and it has not been working, which is why we're doing things differently. But don't just be like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm freaking out. I just want to watch the news all the time. I just want to eat all the things in the house. I don't know what to do. So, and just like let the days waste away. The kids are screaming and running around the house and all the things. So rather than doing that, say, okay, how are we doing with our health? How are we doing with our finances? What kind of routine do we want to have? Make some decisions in advance so you can be more proactive instead of reactive. So we don't know if this is going to be a couple of weeks. We don't know if it's going to be a couple months. We have no idea. But for the time being, what is your game plan? How are you going to survive this season where your schedule and routine might look a little bit different for you? So do you need some kind of structure for the kids? Do you normally have where you're like, my kids can only watch so much TV a day, and now that's going to look different. So like, what is that going to look like? Just making some decisions in advance of, okay, what is my routine now? What does this look like? What's the plan? What do we have going on? Okay, so the next thing, once you kind of, number one, that was point number one, make sure you're doing okay. Kind of figure out how you were doing. How are you doing? Happy, healthy, and safe. How are your finances? What's your routine looking like? What is the for now plan? You don't have to have it all figured out. We don't know how long this will last, but for now, just kind of taking stock of where you're at. How are you doing on toilet paper? How are you doing on groceries? How are you, checking with your friends and family? How are they doing? Just doing those checks will give you a little bit of peace of mind. How are we doing? So start there. And that's just super practical. I know I should say number one, start with prayer. And yes, please do pray. Absolutely pray. But just in a very practical sense, how are you doing? Take stock of where you are. Take stock of your family. How are we doing? If you have blessings, count those blessings. And if there's things that you need to work on, then let's work on them now. Let's make a plan. I know it's so easy to feel overwhelmed, but it's better to work on it now rather than waiting 2 months from now when you're not in as good of a situation because you waited. So just being a little bit more proactive with those things. Thinking about, okay, what is the routine we're following? What is my life going to look like 2 months from now if I follow this routine, or what changes do I need to make right now? Okay, so that was all point number one. Number two thing I want to encourage you about today, and if you have any comments, feel free to leave them in the chat again. So, okay, number two thing I want to talk about is to watch what you're consuming. Now, I know it's so easy right now with everything that's going on to just sit in front of the TV, scroll on your phone, and read the news all day long and kind of freak out of this place is closing, this place is closing. I just found out yesterday that a hotel that we like, they're closing, this restaurant's closing, the library's closed, and I'm sad about that. But rather than just sitting on your phone or sitting in front of the news, find more positive messages to put in your mind. I'm not saying that you shouldn't watch the news at all. Yes, you should be informed. However, there really isn't a whole lot changing over the last couple weeks until now. Like, the job of news companies is to put out news every day. Like that's their job. They have to have news every single day. So they're going to come up with every single story. This place is closing. This place is closing. You need to know about this article. You need to know, like at 6 o'clock, make sure that you're on because you need to know about this thing. It's not a thing. They need to have stories, so they make up stories. Not that they're not true, but they're like, what? Everything can we report on and like sensationalize it? And it's all biased and it's all spin. Yes, some of it's important. A lot of it's important, but there's also a lot of, we want you to watch the news and get on at 6 and this thing, and nothing has changed really very much in the last couple of weeks. Things shut down. We're all at home. And at this point, it's a lot of speculation. So rather than sitting in front of the news and constant just filling your mind with that, making sure watch the news when you need to. I would encourage you to find from a good source. Here we tend to watch more like local news rather than like sensationalized news, but you know, whatever. Find a good news source that you like, that you feel to be somewhat unbiased, and watch only a little bit of news that you need to rather than being in front of it all day. And instead, make sure that you're filling your mind with things that are going to be more life-giving and give you more joy rather than things that are going to leave you worried and stressed out and anxious. And paying attention to, like, is scrolling making you anxious? Is watching the TV like making you worry? Okay, pay attention to that and then let's do less of that. So what kinds of things can you fill your mind with instead? Now is a great time. Be in your Bible, be in prayer, call a friend, read a good book that you've wanted to read. Make sure that you're following really positive and encouraging things on social media, which is what I tend to do a lot of anyways, which is why it was more of a shock to me yesterday when after I've been like, oh, I'm just home, whatever, and I see the neighbors walking around sometimes, like taking a walk around. I'm like, oh, we're just all home, we're hanging out. It's like not really a big deal here in my little bubble. And then when I get on social media, it's like people are sharing joy-filled things. And it was just such a difference than last night when I watched the news for a while because it came on after something else. And they were like, oh my goodness, all these things, this is happening, and we're interviewing this guy, and he's like, it's a pandemic and all. And it is just such a difference. So making sure that you are watching things that are going to be life-giving to you. Yes, watch the news. Don't just hang out in front of the news. It is not helpful for you. I'm checking again for comments. Okay, so making sure you're filling your mind with positive things. And you can just think about, like, if you fill your entire day, not your entire day, like, let's be realistic here, but if you were in the Word every day and the Word is telling you, do not fear, like, I am with you, don't be afraid, like, God's got this, as opposed to you're watching the news where they're like, the world is ending, like, it's really going to make a huge difference in your day. So just taking stock of that, how are you feeling? Is it based on truth? Is your family happy, healthy, and safe? Or is it based on all this media speculation because you're watching too much news? So just something to really be aware of, making sure that you're following those positive and encouraging radio, social media, books, whatever it is that's really going to bring a lot more joy and balance into your life so you're not worried and freaking out unnecessarily. Now, if there are reasons in your life to freak out and worry, like, I'm not going to like dismiss that. I totally understand some of you may be sick. You may have family members who may be sick. You may have lost your job or worried that you're going to lose your job. And that is absolutely legitimate. But don't go off in this whole worry cycle that's not helping you. There's a quote, I don't know who it's from, but it's like, worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but you don't get anywhere. So making sure if you have legitimate concerns that you're sitting down with a pen and a paper and you're saying, okay, where are we at? What is our plan? What can we do? It's time to get scrappy. We're going to figure out some just practical steps. We're not just going to sit around and be like, oh no, the world's going to end, even if it feels that way. Like, okay, what could happen? What are our plans? Like, what are our options? Let's brainstorm some things. How can we bring in additional money? How can we help? What can we do? And again, I don't know your specific situation, so I'm not even pretending to. But I just don't want you to worry in a way that is unproductive and just makes you anxious. Okay, so number one, be super practical, get a plan, make sure you're doing okay. Number two, watch what you consume, making sure that you are in the Word, that you are watching and consuming social media that's positive and uplifting and encouraging and balanced and calm, rather than things that are just going to make you anxious. Okay, number three thing I want you to do, and this is something that has kind of bugged me a little bit on social media lately, is we're all in a different situation. Right now, some of us are still working, and we go to work during the day and then we come home. Others of us are working from home and doing the home thing, and my kids are literally right there and need to go play. Please go play. Trying to do all of the things at once. And then some of us are just like, hey, I'm home. I have nothing. I'm not working right now. Like, I have time on my hands. So we have such varying levels of time on our hands. And I've seen so many posts on Facebook that are saying like, oh, while you have all of this time on your hands, like, you should be doing this. Like, one friend of mine is like organizing his closets, and another friend is like doing all these other things, and one's just like, oh, I'm doing this craft with my kids and it's so fun, and like all of the things. And it can feel like, hey, everybody else is doing all of these things, and we feel like this anyways, but especially even right now, like, everybody else is doing all of these things, I need to be doing all of these things too. Like, I need to be working full time because I need to bring in an income for my family, but I also need to be like the best mom ever, and I need to be homeschooling my kids like full time, making sure they get the education, and we also need to be doing arts and crafts, and we also need to be, no. You cannot do all the things. Let me tell you, I do not do all the things. You do not do all the things. Don't even try. It's not going to happen. You cannot do all the things. So in this season, and I talk about this all the time, but especially right now, like, you need to prioritize what are the things that are most important to you in this season. You get to decide, and your schedule probably had a huge mix-up that just happened. So if you felt like you didn't have a lot of time right now, you may suddenly have a lot more time on your hands. Or if you had a lot of time, you may not have as much time on your hands. And either way, okay, what are your, like, forgetting all of that, what are your priorities right now? What are the things that are so important to you? Is it that you have to work? So, okay, that's a priority. You have to help your kids with your homework. Okay, that's a priority. But what are the things that you want to do in this season? So I'm going to talk about this two different ways. If you're super busy, or if you're not busy. So if you're super busy and you like feel like you have to do all the things and you're like scrambling and barely keeping afloat. If you're super busy, like I said, prioritize what are the things that are most important to you. But on the other hand, if you're not busy, so last week I was sharing, well, I shared about it a couple weeks ago, but last week was the Purpose Driven Mom Summit. And I spoke at, and it was online, and hopefully you had a chance, hopefully you saw the email, hopefully you were able to sign up and attend because it was really good. Main point is I did my talk on how to find time to read your Bible. And as I'm doing this talk, it just, like, I had pre-recorded it like weeks, months, I don't remember. It was a long time ago, but it was just so timely during this season of, okay, now, and you've probably heard me talk about this before. If not, like, I talk about it a lot, but really prioritizing, when are you going to read your Bible? Where are you going to read your Bible? What is it going to look like? And really making a plan to make that happen. And as I was kind of doing this talk and we were hanging out online, one of my friends made a comment of, you know, I always say that I'm going to read the Bible more when I have time. And I have time right now. So this is just my encouragement to you, all of you who do find yourself with a lot of time right now, who have said, you know, I always wish I could spend more time with my kids. You know, I always wish I had the time to read the Bible. I always wish I had the time to read more. If you are somebody who this shakeup has given you more time, I would really just encourage you to not look at it as a negative thing, as, I mean, obviously it's a negative thing, but to see the blessings in it, to say, okay, I didn't have time. I have just been given this incredible gift. I've just been given this incredible gift of so much more time with my family. I've been given this incredible gift of so much more time to get in the Word. I've been given this gift, this opportunity to pray. I've been given this opportunity to reach out to my neighbors and to call them, check in on them, you know, wave to them on the sidewalk. I've been given this opportunity where I can get out and exercise outside more, because that's about all I can do right now. You know, I've been given this opportunity that I've always wanted to clean and declutter my house, and now I have time. I have every day. So whatever it is, if you are somebody who has a lot of time on your hands right now, I would really encourage you, rather than spending it worrying and freaking out and fretting about the future because you don't know what's going to happen, what are all of the things that you've always said, if I had time, that now you have the time. So I would really encourage you, don't let that go to waste, but say, okay, I've always wanted to read my Bible. Now I'm going to make it a priority. This is what's going to happen. Or whatever that looks like for you. And if you are somebody who's like, I am busier than I have ever been, and I am barely hanging on, and I am so overwhelmed, and life is so stressful, trust me, I get you there too. So if that's you, just prioritize. You cannot do all the things, don't even try, but do the things that matter most to you. And whatever that has to look like in the season, this will not last forever. This is not the end of the world. This is for a time. We'll remember this forever. But when you look back 20 years from now, or 10 years from now in the future, when you and your kids or you and your spouse or you and a friend are saying, oh yeah, remember the coronavirus, we lived through that. When you look back, what kind of memories are you going to look back on? Are you going to look back at, that was the worst time ever, we were so stressed and freaking out, or that was a really good time where we get to be home with our families, and it was just this gift of time that we could do all these things that we always said we wanted to do. I mean, obviously not travel, but we could have more time as a family to play board games. We could have time to read the books. We could have time to read our Bible. To say, I took that time and I cleaned up my house, and it was just cleaning my house, but then it was just so much more life-giving. I felt like I could breathe to have this comfortable, cozy home for my family. So whatever that looks like for you, I would encourage you to find the blessing in it, find the good side in it. The Bible does say that God works all things for good for those who love Him. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to immediately be good right away. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be good, but there's always going to be some kind of blessing, some kind of something in there somewhere at some point, may not be now, but there's always a way to find the good in things, or to make good out of something, even as bad as it is. And I know what's going on right now is so devastating. I'm not trying to make light of that. But you every day have a choice. You have a choice when you wake up every single day. What does my day look like today? What choices am I going to make? What activities am I going to fill my life with today? What mindset, what thoughts am I going to fill my life with today? And that has not changed from today, from any other day. What kind of thoughts are you going to allow in your head today? What kind of actions are you going to take today to make a better life for you and your family, and to check in on your neighbors? What actions are you going to prioritize in this season? And that's still totally up to you. So obviously, this is not best case scenario for a lot of us. For most of us, everybody's different in terms of if you're busy or less busy, but you have a choice of how you're going to spend this season. So I'm checking one more time. If anybody is chatting with me, I know you're on there, but if anybody's leaving me any comments, and it doesn't look like it. So anyways, I just wanted to hop in today, kind of show my face, a little bit of normalcy in this crazy time, a little bit of encouragement to just stay balanced, stay steady, stay focused. I know that there's a lot going on right now that can be really scary, but you have a choice to some degree. Obviously, you can't control all the things, but of the things you can control, like how are you going to spend your time? What are you going to do in this season? How are you going to make the most of it? Because that's all you can do, and trust God with the rest. Make a plan for the things that you can do. What is your new routine look like? What do your finances look like? How are your neighbors doing? Make a plan, make a grocery list. And then the rest of it, God's got this, and it's going to be fine, and we're going to get through this, and it's going to be okay. So that is my encouragement for you today. Just wanted to hop on, hang out a little bit. I hope you're doing well. I hope your family is happy and healthy and safe, and you are all snuggled up at home. If you are somebody who works in, oh my goodness, all the things, doctors, nurses, grocery store workers, all the people, I'm sure there's so many other things people are doing, right? If you're an Uber driver, thank you. If you are a Pizza Hut delivery person, thank you for what you do. But just keep hanging in there. Do what you can do. Check on your neighbors, check on your family. Get in God's word when you can. And that is all I have for you today. So I hope you're doing well. All right, have a great rest of your day.